Good evening, dear listeners, brothers and sisters all over the world. I'm addressing you from my monastery of St. Basil of Ostrog, where I live. It is beginning of December. We are getting close to the end of this year, and we should always make saldo, make a count. What have we done in the previous year? How strong did we fight with our passions, and how eagerly we were walking towards the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, the Creator of the universe. And very often we can come to conclusion that we were not eager enough, that we were not fervent enough, and that it could be much better. Nevertheless, we should struggle, we should go forward, but it is not always very easy. If we make an account, how did we fight in previous year, we should make this account every day. In the evening, when the day comes to its end, we should withdraw deep in ourselves and think over there and reflect, contemplate slowly but honestly with ourselves. Did we follow the steps from the Lord, who through His teachings in Gospel told us how should we live and react on every proposal that comes to us from this world? We should make this saldo and say, today we were real soldiers of Christ. We were fighting for our salvation. We were fighting our passions, and we struggled to acquire love, since love is the most important and supreme merit, something which without it is impossible to live this life with a real dignity, human dignity, spiritual dignity, divine dignity. But it is so hard to acquire and to keep love in all our actions and in all our relations with our fellow man, that we are getting in touch every day. And sometimes it's not that hard to be nice, to act with love, to withdraw from every vice and evil deeds, to pray, to be in prayer every day, to fast, to take everything exactly how much do we need and not how much do we want. Because the need is something that is real, and desire is always something that goes much more over what is actually our natural need. Did we really resist all the temptations that came to us during this day? And did we restrain from taking everything? So did we restrain from superfluous of everything? So sometimes we really see that some other power helps us to accomplish all these feats much easier than it is in comparison to some other days. And sometimes we see how hard every enterprise, every spiritual feat, every spiritual struggle is to us. And only then we can recognize the supreme power of the grace of God. So when it comes, everything is much easier. Sometimes it seems to us that we are flying, that we do not touch the ground. Everything is light, everything is easy, everything is beautiful. We love everybody. And in those moments we think that's so natural, so normal. And we are not aware that this is not ours, that it came from above. And only when it goes away, we can recognize that it was something that didn't belong to us, something that came to us from outside, from elsewhere. And then we think over what it was. How did I feel so beautiful? And now I feel so empty and ordinary. And if we are serious enough, and if we try to study with very serious discipline all these changes in our lives, we can come to the conclusion that it really comes to us from some supreme power. And there is no some supreme power. It comes from the Lord. It comes from God, God the Father, the Creator of this universe. And moreover, He awaits us. He wants to give this to us, but not by force. He is respecting our free will. And if we are as beggars, do not show our open hand towards Him, He is not going to give us a spiritual coin in our hand. Otherwise, if He would save us by force, without our consent, we would be similar or even more. We would be the same as animals who act by instinct. We do not act by instinct. Conscience is given to us. But unfortunately, very often we don't listen to our conscience and we wither it, and we do not let it grow and become strong and become the leader of our lives, our conscience, but we give this power to our consciousness, to our ratio, to our brain, which is always in connection with our passions. And passion is irrational category, which always acts by its own laws. And this law is always against us. So that's why if we struggle strong enough on the spiritual battlefield, we can recognize laws and system, how does it work, and then we can acquire to us the spiritual gifts which are essential for our prosperity in this life. And sometimes it is so hard to do anything spiritual, to fight with ourselves. Sometimes we are so heavy, sometimes we are so lazy, and in those moments we see that this is not good, that we should stand up and give the blow back, hit the enemy with a spiritual fist. But we are so heavy, we are so lazy, we are so weak, and we are sitting or even laying in bed all day, or just acting as a mechanism, like some kind of robot, finishing our duties, but without any compassion or love for our fellow man. And in those moments, if we are honest to us, honest enough, we should hate ourselves. We should say, I'm not really acting as a human, but as something lower than that. Very often as an animal. And sometimes we are acting even as a demon, because we can be divine, we can be angels, we can be humans, we can be peaceful animals, we can be aggressive animals, and unfortunately we can be demons. But thank God, to us Christians, the Son of the Lord is merciful. He is merciful to everybody, but to ourselves. He gave us the power to overcome our weaknesses. Sometimes it is good for us to fall down, to see that we are not so powerful that we often think of us that we are. These periods of weakness and laziness and heaviness is important and is good for us, because we as humans are very often apt to think high of ourselves, to think that we are perfect, that we can do anything, especially when we are young and healthy. And then out of this pride, out of this conceit, our heart is getting hard and dry and closed, and this beautiful energy called divine grace, even if it wants to come in us, it can't, because our heart is tight closed, because we think high of ourselves. So that's why when we approach and enter these periods of heaviness, only then we see how small and weak we are. And this humility is extremely important for us, and we should never condemn the day when we were born, or this life, or even God who gave us these hardships of life. But we should grant and say, these are just medicines, bitter pills for our pride and conceit. But unfortunately, in this world, to be proud is something good. I remember it was a long time ago, 20 years ago, when I used to live in the United States, you could see everywhere, even on post parcels, it would say, be proud, be American. So stupid, I must say. Not stupid to be American, but stupid to be proud about it. Why should one American be more proud of his nationality in comparison to some other, for example, some African, some Asian, or some Chinese, or some Serbian, or some Montenegrin, here in our lands, especially in Montenegro. Of course they are Serbs, but just their location is Montenegro. So they say, I'm so proud to be Montenegrin. I don't know what is to be proud about it. What is there to be proud about it? We should be proud only if we do something good, if we follow the steps of the Creator of the universe and His teachings, when we do good to our fellow man, when we refrain from drinking, smoking, eating superfluously, more than we need. And even then, we shouldn't be really proud, because to be proud is not good. We should be humble. We should love the Lord, the fellow man, and ourselves, but in right spiritual manner. To love our soul, to love it as something that is immortal, and not to love our bodies, that is to say, passions of our bodies. So it is good for us when we enter these periods of weakness, because only then we see it's so ridiculous to be proud of ourselves, because we see we are only vessels which should be filled with something, and this something we do not possess. That something comes from above. Although when we do not have this something that comes from above, we fill our vessels with all other things that we find in this world, and very often it is something absolutely harmful to us, such as drugs, all kinds of narcotics, alcohol, gambling, and many other things that we think that it satisfies us. It gives us this content that we need. But unfortunately, the real fulfillment is only from divine grace. And only when we face this deficit of divine grace in such a hard moments of heaviness and weakness, only then we are entering this precious state of humility, not thinking highly about ourselves. And only in these moments, and besides that, when we utter a prayer, then, only then, we realize the most beautiful way how this mysterious power is coming and filling us.